Well, everyone, welcome to our special podcast. I've got the honour today to speak to Dr. Bob Winters. He's one of the leading guys in the mental game of golf. May I call you a psychologist, or what can I call you?
I have a PhD in sports psychology from University of Virginia, and been doing this for a long time. So I was probably one of the early people, actually got started in sports vision, and sports medicine, and sports psychology back in the very early 1980s. And that led me to working with some great players along the way, and allowed me to meet David Ledbetter back in the early 90s, and then the rest is history.
Man, so you've always been predominantly involved with golf? I guess you're involved in all sorts of different sports.
Yeah, absolutely. I played all different sports, but I was a touring professional. I played at every level. I still try to keep my game in. I still do U.S. Open qualifying, and we'll probably do some senior Champions Tour events, this year. And that kind of gives me a real first-hand look, experiential look, and an empathic awareness of what my players are going through. And I think that's the biggest thing with what I do, Paul, that's different than most sports psychologists. Most sports psychologists are trained in counseling and sort of a medical model of educational psychology. And my background is all about sports. It's about coaching and sports vision background and everything about performance. So I think that's really what makes me a little bit different, a kind of a hybrid out here. Just not a head guy, but a guy that can talk the talk, but has actually walked the walk.
And I always think that's important in terms of what we do on a practical instructional level, to have at least experienced not just golf at a relatively high level, but also going through things like, for us, swing changes and so forth. Because if you're working on your own game yourself, you completely appreciate what other guys are doing when you're instructing them. I guess it's the same for you.
It's absolutely vital. I actually create practice, training sessions for people, how to practice, what to practice, because I would say almost 98% of all golfers think that practicing is just going out and hitting a couple of buckets of balls, a day, and saying, I've actually put in my time. But you have to ask yourself at the end of the day, what have I accomplished? What have I learned? It may just be negative programming. You just may be getting good at the wrong thing. And that's why in our field, and you as an accomplished instructor, you can actually help enhance the learning process and help people develop this skill acquisition model faster and more efficiently. And they don't have to actually do this trial and error and keep reinventing the wheel over and over just to get frustrated and discouraged.
Okay. So what would a golfer expect when he realizes, listen, I don't feel confident, or I don't feel like I'm applying myself properly, and he says, hey, well, they maybe listen to this podcast and think, listen, this is Dr. Bob is the guy to go and see. What can they expect from a session with you? Because we all know what it's like to come and have a golf lesson. You book your lesson, you come to the tee, hit some balls, you get your swing videoed.
Yeah.
What actually happens in a session with you?
I think the first thing is it's really fun. Most people like to come in here. They like to talk about themselves. They have a chance to have a catharsis, to get everything out there, to actually get the fish out on the table, so to speak, and open it up and bloody it up a little bit. But it's nice that, we just come in and they have a safe place to actually talk about their golf game. Because when you start talking about the mental game, you're really talking about playing the game. It isn't just physically striking the ball and hitting it and going into different movements. Now we're talking about self-management, course management, emotional control, what I'm seeing. Am I seeing the correct shot? Am I feeling? What am I feeling today? Am I feeling the right swing? Am I feeling confident? Am I feeling diffident, which is the opposite of confidence? So when they come in here to actually, see Dr. Bob Winters, what we're really looking at is developing a personal playing philosophy for each person. And I work sort of on a human being model. Everybody comes in, it's a little bit different, they perceive things differently, and if you actually ask somebody to describe a lion, you're going to get a different visual, sort of different metaphor, a different description of, really what this lion means to them. And then when we start talking about confidence, everybody wants to talk about confidence. A lot of different aspects of confidence. So when we come in, we actually find out what it is that you do well, what it is that you don't do well, and how can we actually get you back to playing to the utmost of your talent level. That's really what they can expect.
Awesome. So it's very much, as I suppose it is with golf instruction too, it's a very much individual thing.
Oh, absolutely.
We talk about, I guess you're trying to find out just as I am. What's the cause of the problem? How how can I build something for this particular person? Because everybody's saying, well, come on, give me some tips, give me some tools, but actually
everyone's looking for that golden nugget, Paul, and that's the biggest thing. I'm a psychological detective. Whereas you can actually put someone on a video and actually sort of break down their swing and look at what's doing well, what's not going so well. Mine's sort of like an onion. We've got to peel off those different levels and those different layers of an onion. So maybe after 20 minutes, I've asked, this person, man or woman, boy or girl, really what's going on. And they'll say, well, here's what I told you at the very beginning, but here's how I really feel about it. So now we're getting a little bit more to the truth, to the psychological core. So that's why it takes a little bit more time. And when they actually start going through this very applied and subjective process, it's amazing really what comes out. And what you hear over and over, well, this is what I used to do when I used to play great. And I ask, well, why aren't you doing that? And they go, I don't know. So, and then, a light bulb goes off in their head. Maybe I ought to start doing that again. Well, maybe we can do that, and we can do it now, a little bit more improved, a little bit better. And so that's really what's fun about it.
So you're leading them to a bit of self-discovery as well, I guess?
Oh, absolutely. It's all about self-discovery, self-awareness, recognition of really what's going, well, and recognition of what's not going so well. But this is the biggest thing. When you ask people, well, what are you thinking about when you're playing your best? Well, most people are target-aware. They're not self-aware. But when you ask what's going on when you're playing your worst, they'll say things like, oh, I could write you a book about this, because they are so into themselves, so into all the bad feelings, the bad things, versus, when you're playing well, you're really into your target, and you're not even considering yourself. So that's fun. I mean, that to me is just fun, and then you see it. You have this epiphany, this light bulb going off in their head, and you get it, and they recognize it, and they go, wow, this is great. And so they can't wait to get out to the golf course. So we do things here in the classroom, we do things one-on-one, and do things in group, and then we take it out to the golf course, and that's really fun. To really put these different things that we're working on here, and then being able to actually put them in an applied setting on the golf course.
Do you, we talk about that all the time, and listen, the lesson's not done until you showed the guy how to do it.
Yeah.
Is that, as it is for us, a tough step to take, to sort of say, right, okay, now we're going to go on the course and you're going to do it? Is that?
No, I think, we try to make that a very seamless transition between one, area to the other. And I always like to say it's sort of like this part, the philosophy part, is the toast, and this is the jam and the jelly on the golf course. And when you bring them together, that's really when we have a nice tasty treat, so to say. So that to me is fun, and it's really not hard to do at all. In fact, they look forward to it, and then they have again that epiphany on the golf course. They go, oh, aha, okay, now I know why we did all of this other stuff. So you've got to lay the foundation, the framework for all the other stuff that's going to come later. Like any good doctor, when a new patient comes into a medical doctor, you just can't sit here and say, here's the treatment, here's what I give everyone, one size fits all, your prescription. What I try to do with every athlete, every golfer that comes in, is to let them describe at depth, this is really what's going on with me. And then I'll start asking, probing more questions, asking for clarification, just like you would in a regular athletic counseling session. And then, what happens? They start coming out, and then we actually build sort of this blueprint for their success. Here's what we need to do, whether it's a routine, whether it's a pre-round warm-up, whether it's just a simple swing thought, swing key. So we have these certain interventions, then we take it to the golf course. But all of that stuff has actually already been discussed here, in sort of this description and prescription setting.
Sure. You just mentioned swing keys and swing thoughts. A lot of golfers that I talk to are under the impression that in order to play your best, you shouldn't think about anything. But surely some type of swing key's got to be okay.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's important, I think, to have something. Like when you first learn to ride a bike, you just can't go out there on two wheels. You have like the little training wheels. And I think that's really what, a great swing key or swing image, a swing feel gives you. It gives you that sense of, this is what I'm going to actually lock onto. And if I can stay focused on doing just this one thing, the result will take care of itself. I remember talking with Sam Snead before he passed away. And he said, well, Bob, he goes, what I want to do is I just want to go out there with the feeling that I'm nice and oily. So this was sort of a kinesthetic, a body cue that allowed him to swing that feel, and it was just a nice full turn, rhythmic, fluid swing, to hit the ball to that target out there. And I think, when we actually prepare before we step in and aim and address the ball, to have this feeling, whether it's just a swing key or a swing cue or even an image. I mean, I could just tell myself, I say, Paul, all I want to do here is just make a nice full turn, and I'm just going to hit the ball right there to my target. Just that is something that's going to keep you right where you need, so that your focus doesn't go, well, I don't want to go here, I don't want to go there. Okay, if I just do this one thing, everything else takes care of itself.
So you would certainly say that visions or pictures or feelings are the sort of thing you do need to take onto the golf course, but probably not so much, like a series of thoughts, because we're over in Germany, which is where everyone's going to be watching this, we're not known for our relaxed attitude to life, whereas tend to be slightly analytical. And I know a lot of students that come to me, they're saying, well, want to go on the course, I just have one or two swing thoughts. I'm thinking about taking it back and then hinging the wrist, and then I'm laying it off, and then I want to get back here, and then, that at some point it surely gets to be a problem.
Well, it does, but you have then paralysis by over-analysis. But then we also have paralysis by non-analysis. People, they don't know really what they're doing when they're doing it well, and they don't know what they're doing when they're doing poorly. So they don't know, they understand anything at all. I think, one of the things is that you just mentioned is everyone has a different learning style, a dominant style. Some people are very visual. They just see the shot, they picture the shot. Some people are very feel-oriented. Some people get their feel through their mechanical, motion. Others are multi-sensorial, meaning they see it, they picture it, they feel it, they can just hit it. And others just have this total overall knowing quality that I can actually hit it. And you have to be able to listen to what that person is describing you. So when we talk about NLP or neuro-linguistic programming, which is just a fancy way of saying, let's listen to our language when we speak. So when you have a person, that's talking with you and they say, Paul, I don't really see where you're coming from. I don't really picture it. Right there you have a very visual person. When you have a person say, I just can't get a grip on what you're saying. I just can't get a handle on this. Now you have a very tactile, a very feeling type player. And then you have a person said, well, I don't need to know all this stuff. All I need to know is, here's how I'm feeling if my ball's going to the target. There you have a person who has sort of this multi-sensorial, but he just sort of has this completion picture. And that's his sensory mode. That's his model. And you have to be able to pick that up as a teacher.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, we learn that as swing teachers too. You've worked with a lot of great players, and you've met and talked to pretty much everybody in the discussions we've had. Do you find that the best players in the world are all of these things? Or are they, do you find as well, Jack Nicklaus might be visual, or an Arnold Palmer might be a feel guy, and there's no real, we're not saying that, for example, that if you want to be a top player, you need to be a feel guy, because this word feel, you hear it all the time.
Oh yeah, exactly.
But that's not necessarily the case. I mean,
it's not, and it's important, when you're actually talking with the very best of the best, whether it was, Mr. Nicklaus, Mr. Palmer, or it's a Michelle Wee or a Tiger Woods. I mean, the one thing you really want to understand is you have to find out, this is what works for me. This is how I do it. It may not work for anybody else, but this is really what works for me. And as soon as you actually start, tapping into that, now you're off to the races. That's a good thing. But I don't think there's not one size fits all. It's like one personality trait, isn't, not everybody is overly aggressive, not everyone is overly passive. But the one personality trait that I see in every great player is that they really believe in their talent. They really believe in what they do when they step up on the first tee. And I see that with every player at every level. Do you believe in your talent? And to me, that is the number one mental component.
Self-belief in what
Self-belief, and even as a student, that you really believe you have the capacity to learn and to get better. And when you're with a student that really, isn't motivated to learn, or you just have a hard time getting them motivated, it's like the old saying, you can lead a horse to water, you can't make them drink. And those are some of your toughest students. But, I've had some of those, in the mental game, physical game, emotional game. And I always, welcome those, because if I can get those people moving in the right direction, then that makes you a lot better as a master educator.
You think it's interesting you say that. You think with what we have today, you can Google just about everything. If you want to find anything else about anything,
Yeah.
and we've got all these. You can on your iPad you can now download V1 and analyze your golf swing, and everybody's looking for tips and tricks and the way to do it. And this is right and this is wrong. But what you're really saying is the key really is to find the way it works for you. But do you find that that's sometimes difficult for people to accept?
Absolutely. Absolutely, Paul. I mean, the whole point about, we talk about trial and error learning, is not that we're looking for errors. We're really looking for trial and success. And a lot of people always want to talk, the old trial and error method. But I think the more things change here as we go into the 21st century, the more things are really the same. It's still about that integrated relationship between you, your ball, and your target. And the collection of thoughts that you take into that ball. Because the ball, when you hit it, is only going to reflect what you really bring to that situation. So when we talk about, getting your mind out of the way and everybody plays unconsciously, and I'm not really sure. I don't think I really buy into all that stuff. I think really the very best players, they know exactly what they're doing when they step into the ball, or they know it and they just release it and they trust it, but they really do understand really what's going on.
And that's something that, in my experience when I've played well, I felt totally in control. I've not felt, well, this is like an ephemeral sort of experience that's happening to me. I sense that I know what I'm doing. I've worked on the same thing in my golf swing for 20 years. Hopefully it's the right thing. But I've always felt that while I'm doing this, it's feeling good. I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm planning right. And I think a lot of people are thinking, no, I need to get back to thinking of nothing and letting it happen. And that's one of the things that I think that very few amateur golfers have had the chance to work with someone like yourself and realize that, hey, there's so many things I could and should be doing, and I'm sort of hanging around waiting for my, as you famously say, waiting for my game to show up.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you take a look at the greatest players, Ben Hogan, Jack Nicklaus, even Seve Ballesteros, Nick Faldo, and the list goes on to the Tiger Woods and the Rory McIlroys today and the Bernhard Langers. The whole point of it is, when they stepped into the golf shot, they really knew what they wanted to do. And to me, decisiveness is just key to great playing. And if I would give, one tip, to all of the, people watching, this interview, is that the one tip I can give you is to be unbelievably decisive, to be absolutely crystal clear, this is what I want to do before I step into the ball. Because that decisiveness really lends itself to movement confidence, really swinging with trust, and really knowing. To me, knowing what you know, knowing that I've thought the shot out, knowing that I'm stepping into the ball with a clear plan, that just gives you that feeling of confidence that I can do this. And that's really what every great player that plays at the highest levels has really trained themselves to do. And I think that's really what we should, be transmitting, to the amateurs that are watching this, is that you have that same capacity. Now, it may not be vocational choice. You may not be working on it 8, 9, 10 hours a day. But just as soon as you actually make that conscious and deliberate choice, this is what I want to do before I step into the shot, I think you're going to see your results improve dramatically. Because most players that I see who are having a lot of trouble with the game are still trying to figure out what they're going to do over the ball, and that's where this myriad of conflicting thoughts comes in.
So for golfers out there, really it's a question of making a decision, making a clear decision, and then going ahead and acting on it.
Absolutely.
And that's it. Really.
Absolutely. To me, it's like going through a green light. It's a green light. You go through the green light, you've got a clear sailing. Sometimes you still look left or right, make sure no one's running a red light. But if you see it's turning red, or you see it's yellow, and you turn red, and you're still going through it, that's almost like a golfer walking into a golf shot with a red light. he's not ready. But how many times do you see a golfer go ahead and hit the shot, and they actually hit it out of bounds, hit it in the water, and they go, that was just stupid, stupid, stupid. Stupid planning, stupid execution. I mean, you always have to, pull yourself back, get to that green light, and then walk into the shot with the green light, and then hit it. It makes the game a lot simpler.
Yeah. Great tip. Excellent. So, to let people know where they can find you online, or, I know you have a great book.
Yeah.
10 Commandments of Mind Power Golf, which is
Right.
everybody needs to get that. I've got several copies.
Okay.
Where can they find out a bit more about what you do?
Well, they can find me at a couple of different places. They can find me. You can even Google me or Yahoo me at Dr. Bob Winters and just check that out. And I'm pretty much all over the web. Or you can come into two different sites. I'm at www.davidledbetter.com. That's David LeadBetterCom, and then www.drbobwinters.com. That's DRBOB Winters with an S.com. And those two places, they can reach me, contact me here. I feel free to help. Hope people come over from that side of the pond over here to America. Hopefully I'll get back to Germany and
be great.
do some of the expositions over there and help some of the German golfers and European players. But it's always wonderful to have you guys here, and always great to transfer this knowledge base that we have. So I appreciate it more than you know.
Okay.
And thanks for having me on.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Everybody, thanks for tuning in. Great interview with Dr. Bob Winters. I hope there was stuff in there. Get decisive. And we'll be back in the next few weeks, possibly months. We're thinking about staying over in Orlando, Florida, because today is 26 degrees here and back home minus 20. So I'm not sure if I'm flying back. But when I do, you'll get the next podcast. Thanks for tuning in.